Donnie? What's up, Bits? Lazaro, what's up? All right, let me see if I can get the audio right here. You know, back to this little game people play about life. Oh, Bits said likely to fall asleep, but okay. All right, no doubt. I appreciate you anyway. But you know, this game that people play, who wrote that song? The games people play. Damn, I love that song. That's an old soul song. I forget. Let me know if anybody knows um, that group that made that song, the games people play. But in any case, you know, I'm sorry to say this, but as you can see by the games people play, the value that is put on human life in the United States of America is at an all-time low. I mean, a man goes out there, stupid as hell, preaching hate, getting gassed up, by the way, getting gassed up, getting motivated, getting people to pat him on the back. And yeah, you get out there, Charlie. You just get out there and spread that hate. Go ahead, man. You're our champion. You're our new sucker, Charlie. You're our new sucker. Then gets killed. And it's really just, I hate to say it, but it's all about political stunts to politicians at this point, like the right wing, particularly. They don't care about this man at all. They don't care. They know what he was doing. They know he was basically a patsy being propped up to take a fall. I mean, who wants to be the fall guy to someone else? I mean, have you ever been in a situation where you're in a group and people are pushing you and urging you? Yeah, you go ahead. You say that. You're the tough guy. You get out there and say it. You're the smart ass. You go out there and say it. And then some other people that's in the same group that you're in, they just sit back and watch you do it and then watch you get paid the price for it. That happens in every town across America. That happens in all criminal organizations, you know what I'm saying? That happens in bullying and mobs in school. You know, kids grow up with that. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. But Charlie is just like a political pawn in that sense. Like, he was gassed. He was put gas. You know, they put the wind behind his sails, threw him a little bit of money, knew that the things that he was saying were to excite a certain base, but they also equally knew that it would divide the country even deeper. But they wanted that, so they supported it and gave it money. I've seen that. I'm 55 years old. I've been to a lot of places. I've seen a lot of politics. I follow politics. Politics is something you need to be aware of. It happens in every country, happens everywhere in the world. They have people that get used like pawns for other people. And Charlie was one of those people. You know, they gave him a lane, but they already know that that lane has some bridges blown out. You know, they already know. But Charlie's too dumb to know this. Charlie doesn't know. Charlie believes that, hey, this is special what I'm saying. The world's never heard what I'm saying before. No, the world has heard and seen, and the United States has seen many Charlies. They've seen many Charlies. This is nothing new. This is just one more goddamn idiot out there fronting for the right, really fronting for the billionaires. Really, I mean, the person that he's really working for, even though he doesn't realize it yet, is a handful of people that benefit from his big mouth. The people that benefit from division, because divide and conquer is the law of the land in the United States of America. That is what's happening. That is what you're seeing. You're not seeing sensible conversation. You're not seeing honest conversations. You're seeing propped up stupid. This might be stupid, honest conversations, but most people are not being promoted or for their kindness. Most people are not being promoted when they extend goodwill to others. None of that conversation. They don't want to see that on CNN. They don't want to see that on Fox News. They don't want to see it. What they want to see is people digest hatred and act like that's something healthy for you to digest. Pretend, you know, even though they know it's only dividing more people, they just want to screw over people's minds. But here is Charlie, nonetheless. They want to pretend like Charlie is not a violent person. But on Earth, there is something called mental violence. Physical violence is not the only violent things that exist. Physical violence is not the only form of violence. There's psychological violence too. There is. There's psychological violence. And Charlie is a person who's been promoted to spread psychological violence. That is actually what he is doing. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks. That's the scientific, sociological term for what he does. Although politicians don't recognize it because it's not codified in law yet. Just like a lot of things didn't used to be codified in law. Think about how many laws in the United States of America didn't used to be a law at all because they were not codified. Even before they get codified, many people talk about it and experience it as wrong before it gets codified in law. And that can happen for long periods of time because that's how democracies work often. They don't change things overnight that are good for you. It takes a lot of time before certain wrongs are really brought to the surface that existed already for long periods of time, but had never been codified by politicians, by representatives. And this is one of those things. Mental violence is one of those things. Psychological violence is one of those things. So some people right now, what happens in the United States of America is physical violence is the only thing that is codified in law. Psychological violence, the country really, really, really struggles with that. It struggles with how it treats children with psychological violence. It struggles how parents treat children. It struggles with how teachers, adults, all types, the entire society treats children. It struggles with children's rights, period, whether it be psychological violence or physical violence. It literally does. The United States struggles with violence, all types of violence. When women are taken advantage of, you could see it in the Epstein files, how little regard the right wing has for the psychological violence that came with the physical violence, the psychological turmoil that came with it, the grooming and all those things. You could see the United States of America had a hard time dealing with that. You know why? Because when the case was first brought up in Florida, they gave him a slap on the wrist. That's why. Now, 20 years later, they're still talking about it because they didn't do anything about it. That is because lawmakers have not really got to the point where they really going to codify this kind of sex trafficking. It's not really codified yet, It's generalized, but not really, because if it was really codified, just how sex trafficking worked, these motherfuckers would have been put in jail. They would have been put in jail. Victims would have gotten justice. Victims never got justice. They never got justice. You see, people would understand it. The public would demand the justice because it would be understood that what they experienced was much more than just physical violence. People would empathize if they understood and recognized mental violence, psychological violence. You see, well, this is the same thing with Charlie. He's a spreader of mental violence. He's a spreader of psychological violence because he does not recognize the trauma that people have already lived through in the United States as valid trauma, because it's not the trauma that he carries specifically himself. So he does not value it. And the same people that he backs up, that they try to build up a base, they're being taught to not value other people's real life trauma from their real life experience in the history of the United States of America. That's what they're spreading. That's what they're spreading. They're spreading indifference. They're spreading a lack of empathy. They're spreading lack of intelligence, lack of sensitivity, lack of awareness, lack of care. That's what they're literally spreading. That's what they're literally spreading. Now, let me ask you something. Charlie, I don't have to. So Jay said define I don't even know what is he talking about. Philological. Violence, psychological violence. Here, listen. I don't define what psychological violence is. It's already defined. All you have to do is take a second to Google it and say, what is psychological violence? Okay, I could do it for you. What is mental violence? Oops. Here, because people are like, what is that? What is mental violence? I don't know what mental violence is. I never heard mental violence before. Can you explain mental violence to me? I'm like, damn, you never heard of mental violence before, man? Shit, that's crazy. Because I have. What is mental and or psychological violence and violence? There it is. Is it real? And what groups can be used as an example to explain to dumbasses? Okay, I'll leave that part out. Here we go. Now, I'll say it to you. Here's the definition. Jay asked for the definition. Jay's going to get the definition. Jay, you can find this anywhere with just your fingers. The same way you found my program, you can actually find the definition of mental or psychological violence. It's in dictionaries across the globe, Jay. Even in the United States of America, even in your town, okay, across your internet. Okay, mental or psychological violence involves actions, words, or behaviors that cause emotional harm, distress, or fear in someone. It doesn't have physical marks, Jay, but can have long-lasting effects on mental health, including anxiety, depression, PTSD, and low self-esteem, Jay. You could start off with that, right? Now, 2 seconds. Now, we get back to this. Can y'all still hear me? Let me turn it up a little bit. Okay, here it is. So, here, key forms include, these are key forms of mental or psychological violence, everybody. Get your pen out if you never heard of it before, right? And take some notes. Two seconds. I'm sorry, y'all. 2 seconds. Just give me a second. All right, here we go. I'm back, y'all. Sorry about that. Yeah, I just had a call, and since I'm on my mobile, I needed to take it. Now, back to the mental violence part. Key forms include, and this is the definition. Someone asked for the definition. Anyone can find it in any part of the world if you have access to the internet or a library. I suggest you go into a library if you don't trust the internet, in your town, the town that you trust. Okay? Now, verbal abuse. That's a key form. Insults, humiliation, constant criticism, threats, manipulation, and gaslighting, making someone doubt their reality or perception, right? Isolation, controlling who a person sees or talks to. Intimidation and coercion, using fear, threats, or implied consequences to control someone. Neglect, emotional, ignoring someone's emotional needs consistently. Is it real? Absolutely, according to the definition. Psychological violence is recognized by psychologists, legal systems, and human rights organizations. Not that the United States gives a fuck about human rights anymore, and a lot of the voters don't either, because they don't even know what the hell human rights are often, right? They don't know how their civil rights even connects to human rights, let alone what any of that means. But recognized by psychologists, legal systems, and human rights organizations as a form of abuse. Its impact can sometimes be as severe as physical violence, affecting brain chemistry, stress hormones like cortisol, mental health, depression, anxiety, physical health, sleep problems, chronic illness. It could be why this guy shot his ass, because, quite frankly, Charlie Kirk, he doesn't know what mental or psychological violence is because he's a purveyor of it. He doesn't actually know what it is or what it does. He doesn't acknowledge it. Groups or contexts used to explain it. Domestic abuse victims often experience psychological violence alongside or instead of physical abuse. Example, a partner constantly belittling, threatening, or controlling the victim's daily life. Workplace bullying. Targets include employees or colleagues. Example, a manager threatening job security, public humiliation of staff, or sabotaging their work. Political or ideological oppression. Governments or regimes sometimes use psychological violence on populations. Example, propaganda, public shaming, intimidation of activists, or enforce fear to suppress dissent. Why didn't Charlie Kirk go on a tour explaining what this is? It would be really helpful and really bring a lot of people together. But he didn't choose to, or maybe he just didn't know it existed because he's uneducated. He didn't value class. He didn't value the internet. He didn't value legal scholars. He didn't value psychologists. He didn't value anybody. School youth environments, bullying among children or teens can involve psychological violence. Example, spreading rumors, exclusion, or repeating mockery. Uh, Right, yeah, repeating mockery. Minority or marginalized groups. Groups may face systemic psychological violence, racism, xenophobia, homophobia, or stigmatization. Example, constant microaggressions, discriminatory laws, or social shaming. That kind of shit that Charlie does. In short, psychological violence is very real, harmful, and measurable, and it can occur in almost any group context, even Charlie's group, right? I'm sure they would agree with that. Hey, the left is getting at us. They just don't have the words to describe it. In short, psychological violence, hold on, family, school, workplace, political settings, and society, it can exist and does exist in all those settings. If you want, just like physical violence does, if you want, it may even be more pervasive than physical violence. If you want, yeah, there you go. So that's what psychological violence is. But back to Charlie. If you're going to actually do that, it might actually be wise to have some security, because this man had little to no goddamn security while he went around doing it. It's amazing. I mean, I'm really shocked myself because I would never conceive of it. He's really, oh wow, man. He's really, I guess he really felt like he was in a safe country. You're not in a safe country. The United States is not safe. Donald Trump told you the United States is not safe. Donald Trump said that the United States is a shithole country, essentially, right? It has more weapons than any other place on earth per person or per square foot. So why would anyone think the place is safe? Because you wouldn't need so many guns if it was. It's just that simple. That makes no sense. You don't have to start off in that place. You could just say, yeah, damn, it's unsafe. And you know what? That's why we have these guns. And you know what? If I'm going to have somebody like Charlie Kirk going around and using mental and psychological violence against other people traveling from town to town, he might want to have some security. But here is the real truth.
Here's what is known and what people are saying about the security or lack thereof in the Charlie Kirk shooting, plus which media and experts are raising concerns. What happened and where security seemed to fail. The shooting occurred outdoors at Utah Valley University during a Turning Point USA event. AP News, approximately 3,000 people were attending. There was a crowd, an open-air amphitheater setting. AP News, security present included 6 police officers, private security, and some plainclothes officers. The Independent, what was not present according to attendees and media reports. No bag checks or metal detectors. The Independent. No strict checkpoint or scanning of tickets' QR codes in many cases. The Independent. The shooter reportedly fired from a rooftop high ground, which was not adequately guarded or monitored. The Washington Post. Experts have pointed out that outdoor venues with large crowds, especially on college campuses, are hard to secure against distant, high-ground shooters. AP News. Who in the media experts are discussing the security failure? Several outlets and individuals are raising alarm or analysing what went wrong. Source what they're saying. AP News writes that the event exposing critical security gaps at political gatherings, citing lack of metal detectors, bag checks, high ground vulnerability. AP News Washington Post discusses how colleges are generally unprepared for these kinds of threats, highlights absence of counter-sniper planning. The Washington Post, The Independent, publishes detailed scrutiny, minimal security, 6 cops, private security, no bag checks, lax ticket scanning, etc. The Independent, former Secret Service law enforcement experts, quoted in various reports criticizing the security planning that it did not anticipate threats from above or distant positions, emphasizing the difficulty but need for more comprehensive planning. AP News. Conservative media figures. Some are rethinking how they do public events, others arguing for stronger security for public speakers, some criticism of how quickly authorities responded or announced information. Business Insider. If you want, I can pull up specific quotes from these experts or
Now let me see something here. There's one of these where they actually literally tell you how many people were there and that how many security was there, and that is utterly embarrassing. If you know anything about security, you automatically know there was a complete utter failure to even take security into account, because anything can happen with large groups like that, not just the large groupings, but also when you have certain type of speakers that are highly politically charged, such as Charlie. Obviously, he's someone very close to Trump, right? Trump speaks about him often, so you would know that just like him and many other politicians regularly are targets of violence. You see, even if they travel, I mean, it's just that is the norm in the United States of America. Didn't you hear about January 6th? You didn't notice that a mob of people went there threatening to hang the vice president and kill Nancy Pelosi? You didn't notice on January 6th that one individual still had not been caught who planted 2 bombs, one at the at the DNC, the Democratic headquarters, and one at the Republican headquarters, and still not has been found to this day? These are examples of violence that really exist in real life in the United States of America. And to assume that those threats no longer exist is very fucking dumb, because they do. It's very simple. They do. Okay. And if you're going to go outside and talk down to people because of their color, because of their religion, because of their sexuality, because of their gender, you might want to consider beefing up the security. You just might want to consider doing that. It's nothing wrong with taking those things into consideration in a violent country. That's just how it works. Now, look, this is really what happened. For those of you that want to know, this guy, because there was no security, anything could have happened to anyone there at all. Anybody. And there would have been nothing anyone could do about it. Why? They didn't have anybody there. There was no one watching certain areas. Nobody at all. Zero. Which is why you don't see one individual encounter him. You didn't have one individual. You had people in the public saying, damn, look at these cats. Is that somebody up on the roof? You didn't have any security saying, damn, somebody's on the roof. You didn't even have any security saying, oh, I just heard somebody say somebody's on the roof. Look, they're pointing over there. You didn't have security that said, what are those people pointing at? You didn't have none of that. You didn't have anybody in the back saying, damn, you know what? In case somebody gets shot here, in case somebody hates Charlie, in case somebody hates this politician, in case somebody hates this activist, any kind of activist, in case we hate them, let's make sure nobody sneaks up on this thing and shoots somebody today. Let's do that. But they didn't do it. They didn't do it. They didn't anticipate someone being assassinated in a state where guns are so much proliferated, guns for the purpose of killing human beings specifically. They didn't anticipate that one individual out of millions might be a little ticked off by some of the mental violence and psychological violence Charlie spews over the radio and over the television day after day after day after day after day. They just didn't. They didn't think about the man. And you know what? I might be like myself. You know what? This motherfucker, he's so stupid and hard-headed. Fuck it. I would warn him that that's not a good way to do things. I would warn him that he might want to get some more security. But you know what? He probably is such a smart ass. Fuck it. Just let him go. He knows better than me. He knows better than everybody. Yeah. Maybe somebody said that.
Thank you for sharing the video link. The footage you provided shows a person fleeing the scene after the shooting of Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University on September 10, 2025. Adding to the time, Kirk was shot at 12:23 p.m., and the individual in the video is seen jumping off a roof and fleeing shortly thereafter. TF's analysis indicates that the shooter was on the roof at 12:22 p.m., just before the shot was fired. The SCT then fled by jumping off the roof at approximately 12:24 p.m., as evidenced by surveillance footage showing the individual running across the roof and jumping down.
So, to make that short, the guy was actually up there for approximately, in all, like up there on the roof. And then after shooting him, there went approximately 1 minute and 90 seconds, a minute and a half. When you see him on the tape, you don't get to see him from the shooting location. You only get to see him when he appears on the tape. I'm going to show it to you. And from that point on, let's see here. And from this point on goes 2 minutes. Goes 1 minute goes 90 seconds from this point on. Let's see here. I'm going to try to make this as easy as possible to see. There he is. You see over there? Did you see? He came from all the way over there in the corner. Let me play it back. Look to the left of the screen. Look to the left of the screen. So he had already been up there about a minute. So he got up there, and once he was up there, he got his shot off pretty fast. Once he got there, he didn't spend much time on the roof. But if you look to the left, you will see the man there on top of the roof running. There, he's running. You can see the timer here. There he shows up on the other side. They don't show the timer here, but anybody can keep count from there. I already did the count by myself anyway. This is in real time for people that don't understand, and it's verifiable by other people walking that are in the scene as well. There's somebody walking right there. Is that even a security guard? You see how that person's walking? They're not running. They're not walking slow. That's normal speed. Now, from that point, you have to stop the video when he jumps down. When he gets to the top, you only use the part from running from the left to running to here. Stop. Then you use the part from you wait until they get finished showing. This is the FBI footage because they repeated it. Then you use the part from when he's at the corner and he jumps down and he continues to run. Then he starts walking. He starts walking about here. You see right there. Now he's going to slow down and just start walking. Da 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 da. La da 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 da. Da da da. Now they stopped the video Da 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 da. It's not that he's not still there. You see this? Look what the look. He's still walking slow. He's still out there. He could be caught. If there was one person there, he would be caught. If there was one security person there, he would be caught. But he was not caught. And not only that, the tragedy is that they didn't even think of it. They didn't even think of it. That's the real tragedy. And the truth of the matter is that any type of activist of any type of success, far less than Charlie, already knows that there are real life and death situations you are definitely going to come across because of threats. Very simple. There is not any type of real legitimate activist that does not know that. It doesn't matter what country you're talking about in the world. All countries, even safer countries, way safer countries, activists are getting death threats. What the hell? This dude is getting death threats. He's been getting death. The moment you're a person who consistently gets death threats, and then you go out to the public and the people who invite you don't even think that you get death threats and prepare the situation adequately for a person that actually gets death threats, there is a complete, utter failure right here. So again, he didn't die because he was preaching hate. Because people preach hate in the United States of America for centuries. That's not ever been a real problem. They've allowed it. They have allowed it. They have allowed it. The real problem, the real difference in his situation is he didn't have any goddamn security. He didn't. That day they had too little, and the experts say so, and that's just how it's going down. Now, he spits violence. The person that shot him is also violent. He just displayed physical violence. That's what he displayed, physical violence. You know, he's no better. He's no better than Charlie. But, you know, hey, and here is an example of the groups that in America, in the United States of America, that are affected most by both forms of violence, mental violence and physical violence. Yes, there's an overlap in in hate crime victims and Charlie Kirk targets. Did you know that? Did you know that? Here's the overlap. In case you really care about violence, you probably don't if you're a troll or if you're a bigot. I'm pretty sure you don't if you're a troll or you're a bigot. But if you're an honest human being who actually cares about human lives, actually cares about the country and other citizens in the country, then you probably would care that ironically the targets of Charlie Kirk's hate speech are the very same people that are actually the most targeted for physical violence, hate violence. Here it is. Do you want to know who they are? I mean, you could if you want to. You could. Don't know if you want to. Do you want to? It doesn't have to be explained, but I'll read it to you. It really is very simple. LGBT, Muslims, immigrants, Latinos, Black Americans. There you have it. It's very simple. Easy diagram to understand. As a matter of fact, do I have a clearer one? Let me see here if I have a clearer one. Let me try to get a clearer one for folks. You could also use Google if you're interested, but you don't have to. I'm not suggesting that you have to. I'm not forcing you to. And to be honest, if you don't, I don't give a fuck. You know why that is? Because I don't live in a country where so many goddamn guns are proliferated. You know, I live outside of the U.S. as an American citizen. I have universal health care and there's a universal education here. Everybody has the right to higher education anytime they want, and it's free, and they even get paid to do it. So I'm not really worried about the guns in the United States of America if Americans aren't fucking worried about the guns. If you're not worried, if you're not smart enough to be worried about the proliferation of weapons of war in the place where you're walking your ass around, that's your dumb ass fault. Okay, it's not my job to baby anybody. Here's a better image for people that want to know. There it is. Targeting indicator. It's actually the same group. It's the same groups. The groups that are targeted most by physical violence in the United States of America by hate groups are actually the same people that Charlie targets. So Charlie is for people that are targets of hate crimes in the United States of America. They already know Charlie is full of shit and he's just doing the psychological warfare aspect of it. He's doing the mental violence part on purpose. Everybody knows that. It's nothing hard to see about it. You know, there it is. You can look the data up yourself if you're interested. Yeah, it's widely available to those who are. You know, it's just what it is. Now, let me check something out before I'm out. This was a very interesting clip. This is on MAGA TV, Fox TV. You know, a channel that most trolls and most maggots seem to like and watch. President Trump, he goes on Fox quite often, so he must appreciate them. He must see them as legitimate news. Let's have a look and see what they say. I mean, but I'm sure maggots close their ears when this part comes.
I really need everyone to spare me the faux outrage and the pearl clutching about this. Little collection of things that Donald Trump and high-ranking Republicans call liberals on a daily basis. Anarchists, anti-American, deranged, communists, corrupt, compromised, groomers and perverts, thugs and traitors. Now, she was explicit that she was talking about a subsection of the Republican Party the same way that Joe Biden is when he talks about these MAGA extremism. But you tell me, if the leader of the Democratic Party, so that would be Joe Biden, was facing 4 indictments with 91 felony counts, he had been found liable of sexually assaulting a woman and defaming her, that's E. Jean Carroll, guilty of fraud, sharing the nation's secrets, not only in the Mar-a-Lago indictment, but there was a report yesterday from ABC News that he had shared information about our nuclear submarine capacities with an Australian billionaire who's a member at Mar-a-Lago, who had then gone on and shared that with dozens of other people. Ended up making a purchase, I think, of 3 subs. It included specifics up to how many nuclear warheads they carry and how close they can get to Russian subs without being detected. And then I told you, so all of that is happening, and he's shooting up in the polls. And when you see those interviews of Trump supporters outside of the rallies, they're like, none of this is true. It's the big lie. He won the election, et cetera. And you wouldn't say to me, you guys are in a cult? It's actually tame what Hillary. I really need everyone.
So you see, MAGA supporters, people that support Charlie, they literally are fine with the president selling, committing espionage, committing treason, giving nuclear sub information to enemies of the United States of America. So they have no basis to be talking about safety in America at all. They don't care about safety. Safety is not their issue. They're too stupid to know what a danger is, actually, to be honest. But they will find out, because the very person that they support is literally putting their lives in more grave danger day after day after day after day. If a natural disaster hits, the president is not going to send natural disaster relief from the federal government, although you will pay the same taxes as if when you did get the disaster relief before. They're going to pretend like, oh, no, you know, we just withhold this disaster relief funding, but you're going to pay the same taxes. For what? For what? For what? What are you paying it for? You see, I mean, he's cutting down your schools. The assistance you get state to state, the federal government used to help and assist for school programs. Well, there's going to be less of that in poor states, mainly Republican states, people that voted for him. So, yes, this is literally a cult because they don't go based on fact. They go based on a Jesus phony like leader who just stands before them and keeps repeating lies over and over and over. And they actually think that if you believe lies, all the bad things will go away by themselves. And they just
Spare me
don't.
the faux outrage and the pearl clutching about this.
That's literally what got Charlie shot. That type of thinking, imagining, thinking if you say, hey, I could just go outside and say this, it's going to be perfectly safe over and over and over to yourself that it would turn out like that, even though a person that looked more like you than anyone else shot him.
Little collection of things that Donald Trump and high-ranking Republicans call liberals on a daily basis: anarchists, anti-American, deranged, communists, corrupt, compromised, groomers and perverts, thugs and traitors. Now, she was explicit that she was talking about a subsection of the Republican Party the same way that Joe Biden is when he talks about these MAGA extremism. But you tell me, if the leader of the Democratic Party, so that would be Joe Biden, was facing 4 indictments with 91 felony counts, he had been found liable of sexually assaulting a woman and defaming her, that's E. Jean Carroll, guilty of fraud, sharing the nation's secrets, not only in the Mar-a-Lago indictment, but there was a report yesterday from ABC News that he had shared information about our nuclear submarine capacities with an Australian billionaire who's a member at Mar-a-Lago, who had then gone on and shared that with dozens of other people, and ended up making a purchase, I think, of 3 subs. It included specifics up to how many nuclear warheads they carry and how close they can get to Russian subs without being detected. And then I told you, so all of that is happening, and he's shooting up in the polls. And when you see those interviews of Trump supporters outside of the rallies, they're like, none of this is true. It's the big lie. He won the election, et cetera. And you wouldn't say to me, you guys are in a cult? It's actually tame what Hillary Clinton. I really need everyone.
It was tame, but not when you're talking to a cult member. A cult member says that, and pretends like they're not out there threatening people daily when they literally are. And guess what? The reason why the young man at 22 had access to a gun is because it was perfectly legal where he was to even teach him how to shoot it and teach him why you should shoot it. And he went out and shot somebody. That's what he did. He wasn't trained to shoot animals. He wasn't trained to shoot a deer. He wasn't trained to shoot a buffalo, to shoot a bear, to shoot a rabbit, to shoot. No, he was trained to shoot people. And that's what he ended up shooting, a person.
And became more political. This young man became more political in recent years. Well, what did he do in recent years? He went to college.
That explains it right there. He went to college. And so in their mind, that's the problem, that he went to college. So their solution is stay out of college. Their solution is literally stay, be happy to be poor, be happy to be uneducated. Don't expect any access to technical schools. Don't expect federal funding to help get you access to technical schools or higher learning. No, that is the problem. I mean, they're just selling people the boogeyman. They're just selling people the boogeyman over and over and over. And people keep voting for it. And it didn't save Charlie's life. It didn't save Charlie. It's all bullshit. It's all after the fact. All you had to do was hire some fucking security for the person you claim to love and respect so much, and he would be alive. But you were too motherfucking cheap to even do that because you really don't fucking support him. You just support the hateful words. The hateful words will continue. He won't. See, the hateful words live on. Hurrah! His ass is dead. That's what you supporters got him, because you're fake and you're phony and you don't stand behind anything, but you back people up so they can go out there and get their ass killed while you play the back. That's where most of you are. You play the back. You're not playing the front and jack shit. You didn't play the front in protecting his life. You didn't play the front in making sure someone else protected his life. What you did was talk shit. What he did was talk shit, and talking shit got him killed. Now, an intelligent person would say, you know what? Maybe I don't need to go town to town telling people in their own towns how they ain't shit. An intelligent person might think that, but that wasn't Charlie Kirk. And guess what? It's going to happen again. It is. Why? Because if you don't change some very basic concepts in your thinking, you will repeat the same history again and again and again and again. Yes, you will. And if it doesn't happen in one way, it will happen in the other way, because that's just how shit works when you take no responsibility for what you do. And Charlie Kirk took no responsibility for what he did. The little man who shot him, I would say he's actually braver. Although he should never waste his life on a scumbag like Charlie Kirk, because now he has wasted his life. He had a bright future and now it's over. But he's more braver than Charlie Kirk because he will pay the price. Charlie Kirk paid none. He basically died like a fucking coward. Now, and if that's how you want to go out, hey, by all means, you can go out like that. Now, let's see here. Trump did discuss nuclear subs with foreign nationals after leaving the White House. You don't give a fuck about that. That's okay when MAGA does it. Trump is going to get the death penalty to that 22-year-old boy who barely got his life started, who's going to take more responsibility for what he does than Charlie Kirk ever will. That's just the facts of it. Death penalty comment by Cox. Trump's all the way for the death penalty, by the way, if you think that is the solution, if you think it's smarter, I would think you might want him alive so you can find out why he did it. But, it's quite, and to find out if he ever changes his mind, if he can help other people. Something like that. But that's not what people who want the death penalty. The death penalty is just something that you do to someone when you know you're already a failure and you just want to get rid of their existence so you can say you did something to help people. This boy already knew the odds. He already knew the odds. What the fuck? There's something else going on here. He already knew the odds. You're not going to change it. You have to change what's inside of people. And if you never really deal with what is inside of people, and this dude had something inside of him, you don't know what it is yet, but killing him is not going to let you find out. It's just going to help you erase it. Experienced prosecutors and defense attorneys say President Donald Trump, Governor Spencer Cox, and may have hurt their own case if they truly believe the man accused of murdering Charlie Kirk should receive the death penalty. Let me say that again. Experienced prosecutors and defense attorneys say President Donald Trump and Governor Spencer Cox may have hurt their own case if they truly believe the man accused of murdering Charlie Kirk should receive the death penalty. Governor Cox brought up the topic for the first time on Wednesday, long before 22-year-old suspect Tyler Robinson was identified. This is nothing serious. Trump is not a serious person. He's a cult leader, but he's not a serious person when it comes to governing. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, and he encourages more of that. To whoever did this, we will find you, Cox said. We will try you, and we will hold you accountable to the furthest extent of the law. I just want to remind people that we still have the death penalty in the state of Utah. On Thursday, he doubled down. We are going to catch this person, Cox said. We are working with our attorneys, getting affidavits so we can pursue the death penalty in this case, and that will happen. On Friday, the governor took control of the press conference to announce Robinson's arrest. There is one person responsible for what happened here, and that person is now in custody, Cox said. President Trump made similar comments before and after Robinson's arrest. He's going to be found guilty, I would imagine, and I hope he gets the death penalty, the president said, because he has a big mouth, Donald Trump. And like most MAGA people, they do too, just like Charlie Kirk. Fox 13 News spoke with multiple prosecutors and defense attorneys with experience working death penalty cases to gain their insight in how these comments could affect courtroom proceedings. Yes, that's actually a thing. The courtroom. lawyers, precedent, experience, not just finding motherfuckers like Cash Patel with big mouths looking to kiss somebody's ass just to pretend like he doesn't know what the fuck to pretend like he knows what he's talking about when he obviously doesn't. Fred Meadows has worked as a defense attorney for the past 47 years. When someone is charged with a crime in this country, they're presumed innocent. Bingo! Damn, said Metos. This is more than just the cart ahead of the horse. You've got a situation where the governor has basically got him convicted already. You do. Yes, you do. And it's all because people like Trump encourage mobs of people with big mouths to not think before they act. Meadows said he believes the comments by politicians are problematic because the defense attorney will use their words again to gain a legal advantage, and they will. That's their job. You're not supposed to help them if you really want him dead. But of course, why would you want that when you don't know if he's guilty or not in the first fucking place without a trial? God damn, that's so fucking utterly stupid to do. It makes it difficult for everybody, Meadows said. When a politician starts commenting on a pending criminal case, he's putting his foot in his mouth. Utah Attorney General Derek Brown has not confirmed whether prosecutors will seek the death penalty. They won't now. They will lose the death penalty because of their comments. Duh. Because it shows that they already had prejudice before his conviction. Duh. At this point, we're making that determination, he said. Prosecutors, he's not the only one. Cash Patel went out there with his big old mouth. I mean, there's no need to read more because you get the gist. These people don't know what the fuck they're doing. It's all politicized. Cash Patel went out there and made political comments when he showed up on the scene, when really he don't have shit to do with it. It was the state authorities. They should have kept Cash Patel out of it and kept Trump out of it, because the moment you added Trump to it, you added his big mouth and he changed the conversation. So, yeah, in any case, Cash Patel went out there and made similar comments. He went out there and went on record in front of the public and said, "We got the guy." Then they found out they didn't get the guy. They got the wrong person. So why would you say it if you absolutely were not certain? Then that's what he's going to be asked on the stand. Cash Patel will be coming to this man's trial. He will be a defense witness. This is going to be crazy. And you get to see dumbass Cash Patel up in there looking like a dumbass idiot. Yes. And then they will say, okay, so then why did you do the same dumbass shit again, Cash Patel? You actually said, we got the guy this time. And then you came out and you find out, and, the guy's absolutely certain. Why are you telling people you got the guy when you don't know? All you have to do is say, what you're supposed to say is, we have a suspect in custody. That's what a law enforcement officer says. You don't say you got the guy because you fucking don't know, dumbass. But this is the America that these MAGA people want, and they're going to experience this type of stupidity in all ways of life because they enjoy it. They're sadomasochist. They enjoy things getting a little harder on their families, their mothers, their fathers, their sisters, their brothers, their teachers, their police officers, their communities. That's what you get when you let stupidity rule. That's what this is about. And, thank God I'm not there. I wish people the best who double down on this shit and claim that, yeah, this is fucking right. And this is the best we can do. This is America, yo. This is America. This is America. We gonna do it. We gonna let it do what it do, because that's how we do it. America. America. Trump 2028. Trump 2028. Trump 2028. Trump. Alrighty. I wish you all the best. With that thought, I will be back with y'all in a few. Now, it's not all over. You're going to have to feel the pain, even you MAGA people, no matter if you change your mind at all or not. And some of you won't. But for the ones that are a little more reasonable, you best understand something. You are going to feel the pain of Donald Trump for a year before anything comes close to even changing. You are going to experience more devastation in your communities. You're going to experience higher prices. You're going to experience more violence across the country in your own communities committed by people that look like you, because that is how the crime always is committed in the United States of America. White people kill white people. Black people kill black people, pretty much, outside of the hate crimes. And it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. You see, you let more of you across the country, especially in red states, your grandmothers, your parents will get less access to health care. You will have to come up with the difference out of your pocket yourself, even if you don't have job security. Yes, that's what's going to happen. And for your children also, because of your choices. So no matter what you do, no matter if you wake up from this nightmare one day and say, I know what to do. I promise I won't do it again. God, I won't do it again. Well, you're going to have to experience it anyway for a while. That is the truth, Ruth. I'll be back to y'all. See ya! Release the Epstein files, yo. Release the files. Stop bullshitting, man. Come on.